get things together over there, and he's going to wave politely when he's ready. So, just
Fire.
and click that.
You said fire.
Yeah, sorry.
You can fire me if you want.
Yeah. I guess I can just do, I would, honestly, I told him I would. But, so talk amongst yourselves, but we've got a couple sections, a couple of events.
No
pressure back there.
We're good.
It's easy. Okay, right on the nose, pretty much. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm Carol Rosedew. I'm founder and publisher of Manchester. Thanks, Mom. We're so happy. We're so happy to be here tonight. I just wanted to thank the library, Denise Van Zandt, who could not be here tonight, but made everything available to us, and for staff. I want to thank them for allowing us to use this beautiful auditorium. I want to thank Manchester Public TV for being here tonight and for recording this. I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight and showing your civic pride and your interest in our city and in this election. It's very important, and I really appreciate that. And I really want to thank Mayor Jay Ruais and Jessica Spillers for agreeing to do this. And I want to thank you both for your service to the community, both of you. That's what makes our community great, and should inspire all of us to get involved and do our best, put our best foot forward for the city, no matter what that looks like. I do want to also add that we are going to have an after party that I did send out a notice about, just kind of spontaneously. But for anybody that wants to chat about the forum and about city politics, or who wants to watch Game 4 of the World Series as our Blue Jays, I say our Blue Jays.
Former Fisher Cats.
Yeah, a bunch of Fisher Cats. It's been so exciting. I've discovered a new passion one, but they're going to be on the TVs at Bad Burger down on Elm Street. So if anybody wants to gather there and hang out for a little while afterwards, please come down. It's a 4-minute walk right down Concord Street, and a beautiful 4-minute walk down Concord Street. And we'd love to talk a little bit more about politics and life and baseball, and you can talk about anything, but
Hopefully nice thing.
yeah, and that's my cue. I also want to thank Sylvia, who's our moderator for Andy does a great job covering the city, and he's my right-hand man. So now I have to share him with a couple cute little girls. You know, it's a little bit harder. We've got 2 beautiful daughters, twin daughters, but that's what life's all about. So anyway, with no further ado, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Andy, and we're going to have some Q&A with the candidates.
Thank you, boss. Thank you, Fire, for recording this for Manchester Public Television. And hello to everyone else. My name is Andrew Sylvia. I'm the Assistant Editor of Manchester Inkling. Thank you all for joining us today in the Manchester Public Library. We're going to start off with one first question before we get introductions. Candidates, as you can see, I am wearing an Inkling branded shirt tonight. Did you know that you and other audience members can get our own Inkling brand, Inkling branded shirts at shop@inkling.us. So, okay?
All right. I do now. Okay, and I would love to.
I do now.
Okay, there you go. So, first question out of the way, perfect. Also, you can get them for free if you join our VIP Club. If you go to the event later at Badberg, I'm sure Carol will tell you all about the VIP Club. So, next up, we're going to start with introductions, 2 minutes. Mayor Ruais, can you tell us a little bit more about your campaign and your thoughts?
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Andy. I always say the hardest working reporter in the city of New Hampshire. Better than a while. We really like to do something to this. So thank you for representing Red Large. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, committee members, builders. Anytime somebody puts their name on the ballot is a really difficult thing to do. So thanks for your commitment to the city as well. So in the last 2 years, I do think that we've made some really good progress in the city. We were ranked the third best run city in the United States. We have the #1 housing market in America. Crime fell by 15% in 2024. Overdoses fell by 24% and 21% respectively. Overdose fatalities fell by 21%. Overdoses fell by 24%. We have nearly 1,000 new units coming online through our work at the Engagement Center and also our effort to effectively end veterans homelessness. For homelessness, we gave housing for 140 previously homeless people in the city of Manchester over the last 21 months. And so I think we've made some progress. We know that elections are inherently about the future. And so good things that I look forward to potentially having the opportunity to do in a second term. We know we have to continue to make more progress on housing. So the zoning rewrite that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen is currently considering is terribly important to the long-term ability for us to add increased units into the cities. We need more density. We need more units to further drive down costs in the city of Manchester. On homelessness, I think we can take a real strategic approach, like taking the lessons that we've learned from effectively ending veterans homelessness. We can scale that up with our lessons that we have learned to address other subsets of the population: seniors, families, children. Looking forward again on crime. So we have 2 police contracts that are coming up next year. We've covered 20 and 25 vacancies in the police department, making sure that we have a fair contract for our police officers to recruit and retain them long term is going to be incredibly important for public safety in the city of Manchester. And then, of course, on budgets, that's always a big topic of the single year. But on budgets, we have to make sure that we are protecting the taxpayer, and at the same time that we are making sure that we're not cutting in the essential services, and we're building a city that's going to meet the needs of everybody in the community. So I really look forward to the next hour, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thanks. Thank you so much.
We'll look at 3 minutes, so
Did I not do that?
You're close. You're
Because
close.
I don't have Lucas.
I know. We need Judy down here again too. So, all right, we'll give you 3 minutes, Jess. Start it up.
Sure. We think those are far in these, I would say. I hope everybody think you're me, but thank you to Andy, thank you to Carol, thank you to the library for hosting this event, and of course, thank you to Mayor Ruais for participating with me. So like Andy said, my name is Jess Spillers, and I am running for Mayor of Manchester. I am a mom. I have 3 kids. My oldest just started kindergarten over at Jewish Street Elementary School. We have lived in Manchester since 2016. I'm a military brat. I've been in New Hampshire since about 2000. My dad was stationed here. I'm a social worker. I work full-time for the state as a SNAP program specialist. And I am on the board school committee. I represent Ward 8. And I really got into this race because back in June, when our school district budget was finalized, there was an $8.5 million cut. And I just knew that we had to do more. Something more had to be done, and I had to step up in some other way. So I decided to run for mayor, which is not something I ever thought I would do. But this is a critically important time, and we need real leadership in the city. I thought in my job, walked alongside people who are struggling in the city. I have helped the homeless find housing. I have helped people with substance use disorder get treatment. And I know that with the right leadership, we can all live and thrive together in Manchester. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jess. Okay. One more thing we'd like to add, we recently put out a voter guide, in case you haven't seen it. There's a lot of questions there that the candidates answered. And tonight's questions are going to be a little bit more specific. They come from moments at the Board of Mayoral meetings themselves. And in case any of you don't know me, I am the City Hall reporter for Complaint. I've been to not every meeting, but most of them, like 85%. So, yeah, if you guys have been watching the meetings, these questions shouldn't be too unfamiliar to you. So, starting off, we're going to start with Jess, since the mayor went first last time. It's been hard to avoid the topic of homemade vehicles lately, while the discussion. The decades-old ordinance related to homestead food manufacturing in the city at the beginning of life right now, with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. What do you personally feel is the best path forward regarding the issue of homestead food manufacturing? Jess Shipton.
Well, thank you, Andy, and I was expecting this question from you. It's been, I mean, we laugh about it, but it is something of a big deal, right? We don't want to discourage neighborliness or friendliness amongst the people who live in this community, but at the same time, we have to keep everybody safe as well, especially with those folks who are selling food. So I do think it's time that we look at the ordinances and potentially do a rewrite just to bring them up to date.
Thank you so much. Ms. Mayor, yes?
Yeah, so we're doing exactly what the legislative process is designed to do. This ordinance is over 6 decades old. When an issue was brought to the board, we had the first conversation come up in the full board, and then we said, look, this is 6-decade-old ordinances. It touches everything from baked goods, non-hazardous food items, to potentially hazardous food items, and everything in between. So let's send it to committee. Let's talk with our city solicitor. Let's talk with the city clerk. Let's bring in our health department. Let's have that conversation with them about what is the appropriate response to this. So that's exactly what we're doing. That's the conversation that we had in the public safety committee last week, and we're looking forward to seeing the resolution to bring it up on November 18th, a final product that is going to be incorporated with our food service code that's being updated as well this year.
Thank you so much. Going on to question 2. There have been some raucous moments since the current one convened, resulting in modifications to Rule 8 of the Board of Mayoral and its rules, as well as the end of Alderman Lavasser's chairmanship of the board. Please share your thoughts regarding decorum at city government meetings, as well as your expectations for decorum for years if you are elected. Mayor, sorry.
Yeah, so I think it's incredibly important. Anybody that's followed me over the last 3 years between time that I have been campaigning, starting in 2023, to the time that I was fortunate enough to win and assume office, I think it's incredibly important that we always treat each other with respect. You'll see in the meetings that I always try and give everybody the opportunity to speak. I think it's important that we have dialogue. I think I've been very pleased with the fact that on an evenly divided board, 7 Republicans, 7 Democrats, that I can count on one hand on the times that I've had to break a tie. And I think that's because I work to build consensus, and I think that's incredibly important. I do think it's incredibly important that we're always showing respect to each other. And I think the conversation that we had on the board is that we are an employer. The city of Manchester is the 3rd largest employer in the city. And it is important that we are treating our partners, that we are treating our employees, and that we are treating our colleagues with respect. So I thought it was important that we have a conversation about what our rules of decorum should be on the board.
Cash, you're up.
So I think it's pretty evident, Andy, like you said, that there have definitely been some tough moments in City Hall. Things have gotten pretty heated and pretty contentious, and to put it frankly, I would have used the gavel a lot more. We need some decorum within City Hall. Folks are not treating each other with respect. They're not treating our department with the respect that they deserve. And in fact, it's pushing people out. I think about our director of accessibility earlier on, who liked the city. And, I am grateful for our director, Ann Thomas, who came in and was very professional throughout, and dealing with racial hazard. It is a balance, absolutely. Everybody should have their say, but we need to ensure that folks are being respectful to one another and that they're governing with seriousness, because it's a serious business that's going on in City Hall. We are expecting change throughout the city. And if elected mayor, I'm a mom to 3 kids, and I don't mind telling people that it's time to buy down and get back to business.
Good. Thanks, Mom. All right. Question number 3. I guess I'd like a little bit. We're going to be going from Tuesday at City Hall to Monday at City Hall now. Then you got a school question. Manchester School District continues its struggle to recruit professional educators, nurses, crossing guards, and bus drivers. Since the mayor is the chair of the board of school committee, how do you feel this problem is to resolve given the current financial realities in the school district?
Yeah, so during the budgeting process, this was prioritization. And we had this conversation with crossing guards specifically There were 3 options that were presented to the board to increase pay for our crossing guards, trying to attract employees, no different than what I've talked about in my opening statement, attracting more police officers with 2 contracts next year. So I think compensation is a big piece of that. And, certainly as we get into contracts next year, whether it's police or in 2 years with the teaching contracts that are coming up, or school district contracts that are coming up in 2 years, I think that the compensation plays a huge role. There has to be a balance with everything that we do, because the only way that it can drive any kind of funding or revenue is from property taxes. So I think the role of mayor is global, where we have to consider the school district, or we have to consider the city, and ultimately at the end of the day, our bosses are the taxpayers, and we have to make sure that we're treating them with the utmost care and respect as well.
Okay, Jess, you're up, and you'll get first dibs on question number 4 as well. So, what's your take on this question?
I think it'd be a lot easier to attract people if we didn't have the $8.5 million cuts of the year. We're not able to necessarily incentivize those positions in the way they'll go liked, because we are, we have underfunded the school district this year. And so we are doing the best that we can with what we have to recruit those people into those really necessary and needed positions. I mean, crossing guards are not something that we think about too much, but we have some schools on some very busy streets. I think about the Street Elementary School, I think about McDonough, I think about even where my daughter goes, over at Jewett. They are in need of a crossing guard. So it is a shame that we were unable to come to consensus on that school budget and ensure that the school district had what they needed in order to continue the progress that we've made moving forward.
Yeah, I just like going on to question number 4. Look, a consensus has been reached that the 39 Beach Street Shelter and Engagement Center, as it's right now, is financially untenable long term. The plans are in place to serve disabled and elderly individuals at a main facility on Elm Street. However, it should be noted that the Engagement Center has been considered a problem by some, maybe not the health agency's homeless population. How do you feel that the services offered by the Engagement Center can be duplicated without 39 Beach facility to need those services that require just give up?
Thank you, Andy. As a social worker and somebody who's worked in the city with the homeless population, it's imperative that we have a facility like the 39 Beach Street Engagement Center for the homeless and the people providing supports and resources they need come out of that to come together in a central location. Some of my days were spent just walking around or driving around the city trying to find my clients because they didn't have any more minutes on their phone, and so I couldn't call them and ask them to come to the office. If we have a center like the Beach Engagement Center, I know that we can continue to make the progress that we need to as a city in order to bring homelessness down. If folks can access those resources, it's been shown that homelessness stopped down. We need to ensure that that's available somewhere in the city, whether it's there or it's another part of town, but it needs to be accessible to everybody. And in a place where folks are not feel comfortable coming to use those services, whether that's the homeless activists themselves, with the nonprofits providing the supports. We need to continue to engage in this law.
Thank you too much. Mayor, what do you think?
Yeah, so 200 Elm Street, where the new location is, has capacity for engagement center and day center, and also importantly, it has capacity for winter warming. We all know it gets cold here right around this time, so we have capacity for winter warming in there. Because I think it's evident what happens if we don't have a location like that. We'd be right back to where we were 3 years ago with 110 spread around families in transition. So we did the dollars that we are able to keep that going right now, dollars that I was able to raise from CMC, from Elliott, from Dartmouth, from Hampshire Charitable Foundation. So we know we can't pay, we're not going to raise $500,000 to make sure that we can keep that sustainable for the next 19 months. That is a bridge for the time being while we continue to look for long-term sustainable solutions. And when that was set up 3 years ago, it was set up with ARPA funds, which apparently had an expiration date. But the overarching reality of this situation is that every single mayor has dealt with this problem for the last 25 years. And the history of this has been that we set up a day center, we have it in place for a little while, and then it goes away. The business community gets all fired up because they have 50, 70, 80 homeless people in and around the downtown area. And then we rush to set up something like this. It lasts for a few years, and everybody's content with what is going on in the downtown. And then ultimately, the funding will go away for it or something like that, and we end up right back into the same problem where there are 100 people in the downtown, and we rush to set something back up again, and we've repeated this cycle over and over and over again. And it just really does a disservice to the city. So I think one of the things that we have to do is find out ways to make this sustainable in the long term so that we don't continue to beat this.
Thank you so much. All right, going on to question number 5. We're going to be talking about the RSA that is near and dear to our hearts, RSA 79E. It comes up a lot at Board of Mayor and Alderman meetings. For folks who don't know about it, it's a state law that allows municipality to provide tax breaks to developers seeking to renovate underutilized, culturally significant, or historically significant properties in the downtown or village center area. I think I got that right. You double check later. And it's, in recent months, a moratorium on 79E requests is placed as the board determines a more standardized approach for these requests that can be very useful and effectively renovating building downtown. So my question for the candidates, what are your thoughts on a standardized approach to 79E, particularly weighing in factors such as the inclusion of affordable housing units, the vacancy rate, and other things, and how should the city respond in any other way in terms of what 79E requests?
Yeah, so that's what we're doing right now. So our economic development director, Joni Vizak, does an amazing job for this city of Manchester. She came to me and then ultimately to the board and suggested that we take a pause on this for now because we have been using it. It has been extraordinarily successful in the downtown. We have utilized it in some instances to bring in more affordable housing. We did that at the Vermont Hanley building. 14 of those 38 units that are going into the Vermont Hanley building are affordable. We extended the length of time they kept that 79E because they came forward and said we want to make this affordable. But now we're looking at other opportunities from other parts of the city where we can utilize that to see the growth that we have downtown as a result of that and extend it to other locations. So we're in the process of convening and discussing what the best roadmap forward is for that 79E. And you brought to the board that you're going to have that conversation with for all 14 members.
Much. Jess, it's your turn. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the 79E process is helpful in terms of revitalization, but we do need to re-examine how we're using it now. We can't use this as a tax break for big developers, property owners living out of state just want to make money off the backs of our citizens. So we need to ensure that there's fidelity and efficacy happening when we're deciding who gets a 79E tax break. That I think we can leverage that a little bit better in terms of ensuring that there is some sort of affordable housing available as well. We shouldn't be granting this to just anybody. Individuals need to show how they're going to make an investment in the city, and that needs to come from the people making that request themselves. We can absolutely ask for it, but they don't always say yes. And in those sorts of cases, I would question whether or not that's somebody we need to be giving that tax break to.
Thank you very much. All right, we're halfway done with my questions. If we have any time left, we have some reader questions. Question number 6. Tom Malafronte replaced Ted Kitchens as the director of Manchester Boston Regional Airport earlier this year. Malafronte has a long history with the airport, but Kitchens leads a strong legacy after the addition of several new carriers, stabilization of the airport's debts, and numerous infrastructure improvements, including runways, taxiways, and many other parts of the airport. What will or should be the top things that the airport should focus on in the near future? You've had Ted Kitchens type up. Jess, what are your thoughts?
Well, I do think that there's been a lot of improvement in terms of the Manchester Regional Airport. I'm grateful that we have such a great small regional airport here in the city that we don't use. One improvement that I think can be potentially made is The state has a plan for passenger rail, and I think that's something we should be looking into in order to bring in potentially more folks to utilize that airport, whether they're from, northern Massachusetts or a little bit deeper in. That's one way that we can drive the economic growth in Manchester and help expand the airport itself.
All right, thank you very much.
Mayor.
Place your thought.
So Manchester Boston Regional Airport is incredible. So they are consistently ranked in the top 10 of best small airports in the United States of America. Over the last 2 years, we've brought in 3 new airlines and 5 new routes. It's incredible to see the progress that's being made. One thing that we haven't done in a while, which we are currently undertaking, is a master plan to answer the very question that you just asked. What is the best next step for the Manchester Boston Regional Airport? How do we take this gem that we have and continue to expand it? And the reality is that for airlines, what they're looking for is butts and seats. It's just how many people are traveling in and out. They are very fluid. They can immediately move an airline in, and then a couple months later, they can just as easily pull it out. So the best thing that we can do as a city is continue to talk about how if you are planning, the flights are just as cheap. It is you're adding a leg to your trip when you're driving down to Logan. That's an extra hour both ways. And you're talking about the facility, the ease of travel flying in and out of Manchester, and continuing to stress what we have here to drive more people into it, to bring in more airlines, because that's what they're looking for. But I think that master plan is going to play a central role, just like the city's own master plan did several years ago, in setting our cities up for success in the long term. Bringing together the stakeholders. What do we want to see? What do we need to do to attract more people? And I'm really looking forward to that process unfolding over the next year.
Thank you so much. We're going on to this one here. This is another school question. The Manchester School District are in the process of addressing items in phase 1 of facility plan, addressing the construction of new district elementary school, completion of upgrading Manchester's middle schools for Dallas fifth graders, purchase of modern facilities and analysis of institutions in high schools. However, to the second phase of the plan, which will address renovations of 6 others, public schools is paused. Can you please share your thoughts on phase 1 and phase 2? Sorry.
Yeah, I think the primary thing that we have to look at going forward for phase 2 is cost. And what is this going to look like for the city of Manchester? Certainly, if we are going to be upgrading our middle schools and creating a new Beach Street school, certainly don't want to leave elementary schools or high schools out of that equation. So now the question is going to become, what can we as a city afford? How do we make sure that if we're going to do this in the future, when the Mayor Baines bond expires from the work that he did 20 years ago, when that expires, what are we going to look at that's a cost-effective way to make sure that there is, that we have that equity across the district with our school buildings? But at the end of the day, the conversation that's going to be had is, what is this going to cost Manchester taxpayers? Is this something that we can afford? Are there, what is the best process going through to make sure that it is affordable and that it is working for the students as well?
Thank you so much. Committee woman, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've always been a strong supporter of phase 1. I don't think it's any surprise to anybody. I'm on the school board right now, so I have a strong pro-public education stance. I think that we need to invest in our public schools and not be afraid to do that. I have been to all of our schools. When I was on pregnancy leave in January, 3 days after which I was at the Fort Mayor and Alderman advocating for the land transfer to happen. But in that pregnancy leave time, I went and I visited all of our schools, walked around, I talked with the staff and met with the principals and just saw the physical buildings themselves. And they are in real disrepair, some of them. And it's a shame. We have to invest in our buildings, and we have kicked the can way too long as a community. Way too long. Our youngest school is 50 years old. And that's the life of a building for our public schools. So we need to ensure that when we are funding our public schools, when we are talking about school district budgets, that we are making all of those considerations, and that we choose them to an adequate and full extent, so that our students and our educators have the resources that they need, and that they have facilities that reflect the pride we take in our public education system.
All right, thank you very much. We go on to question 8 here. we read the peak one short suite. Please provide your thoughts on the current investment in the city's road repair budget. Committee will be notice. What are your thoughts?
Mike?
So we need to continue to repair our roads, obviously. There's certain parts of town where they maybe seem a little bit nicer than others, but we should be ensuring that boats can go around the city without having to dodge potholes or driving down musty roads because they can catch them many times, go as woodland roads, and just continue to invest in that infrastructure so that folks will have an easy time getting around the city and will enjoy being here.
Jay, what are your
So in the budget that I introduced this year, and that was ultimately passed by the Board of Aldermen, we put more money into our roads, $7 million that any previous budget has in the history of Manchester. The challenge that we run into right now is, of course, construction costs have exploded. It is extraordinarily expensive, and so your dollar goes much less. It doesn't go as far as it once did. But we did put a record dollar amount into the budget this year for our roads. We certainly know that there's work that needs to be done on that. There's a prioritization plan that we have that the Department of Public Works puts together. We follow that with fidelity. Again, the job of there, as I talked about, is a global one. For every dollar you spend on roads, you're not spending it somewhere else. So these are the difficult conversations that we make during the budget process.
Thank you very much. Next question. Pine Street recently received new bike lanes, although many cyclists have indicated that they do not feel safe overall when riding bicycles through parts of the city. What are your thoughts on the city's non-motorist transportation infrastructure? Particularly, it was like, Jack, what are your thoughts?
I'm not a cyclist, but I'm a runner, so I certainly enjoy being able to be on the roads without being accosted. I think, this is one of the things that was addressed in the master plan, is looking at the multimodal transportation network that we have in the city. So that's one of the things that came up in the master plan that we talked about as we're doing road construction around the city. Certainly, as I've talked about, it's vastly expensive to do road work, so I think we want to ensure that we are focusing on that. Foremost, but I think as it pertains to our construction, our multimodal system, the network that we have here, making sure that we're going to continue to complete that as part of what the master plan was talking about. It's important.
Jess, you're up. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think bike lanes are useful for multiple things. Obviously for cyclists and for people driving their vehicles to have some expectation that that's where somebody on a bike may be. But we also all know about the traffic around town that speeds up and down the streets. And it has been shown that in certain areas, bike lanes do help to slow down traffic. You have to pay attention. So, I think it's an effective way, whether or not people use them, it may be an effective way to help slow down some of that traffic on our kind of like inner city highways like Beach at Bayfall and others, kind of right there in the center of town. It's an extra paint line on the road. It's not terribly expensive, so if we're already doing road work, I think it's something we should surely consider doing because of all the other benefits to it. That's all.
Here is the last question that I have, and if we still have some time, looks like we definitely have some time after this before we go to some leader questions like we're saying. You recently concluded compensation study has been praised by your members as the word Mayor Alderman step forward in creating an updated and more rationalized system, recruiting and retaining quality city employees. In your opinion, how important has the study been so far toward addressing city staffing needs, and what else needs to be done to ensure that city government departments have quality employees? Jess, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's incredibly important that we make sure our city servants and our public employees are being compensated well. We don't want them to go, we don't want to continue to have this trend where people come and work at our city and then when they get a little experience, they go over to Bucksville or Gobstown or somewhere else where pay is a little bit thinner. Right now our police force have vacancies hovering around 75, and we need to ensure that we're able to bring folks on and that they're also able to live here if they want to live here. So we need to also look at the bigger picture in terms of affordable housing. What does that look like? So that we're attracting people, we're helping our city departments attract, retain, and maintain employees long term.
So I'd share where you thought.
Yeah, this was something that I included in my budget this year, was the allocation to pay for the $7 million for the compensation study. So that it was an expensive proposition, but this is something that had been neglected for some time. Really, something that I started under my predecessor to get that study going. It's a good project for us to continue undertaking, and we got the data back. It was clear that it was determined that we were underpaying our city employees, and then that leads to a reduction in services for you all. So that means that there are times when trash wasn't getting picked up like it should, or we have the vacancies in the police department that we had talked about, or we have vacancies in the tax collector's office or the city clerk. It just makes it more difficult for us as a city to do our job in serving you. So I thought it was incredibly important for us to get that across the finish line. Ultimately, the 11 contracts that were signed this year with 11 of the 13 unions were ratified unanimously by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So I was really proud of that effort. And kudos to that goes directly to our solicitor's office, our HR director at the time, Lisa Dravick, who just did yeoman's work getting that across the finish line. The incredible work that they did. Certainly the kudos goes to our unions as well, who came to the table willingly, and they were incredible partners in this effort. So I was really proud to see that get across the finish line. I think that's going to address a lot of the problems that we have had with those vacancies. Because as we know, particularly in the police department, just because there's a vacancy doesn't mean that there's a vacancy on the road. So we still fill those spots, and instead of filling it with somebody who's getting paid to bring them late, they're getting time to act. So we're paying for it whether we like it or not. So we might as well pay for it in that base salary, so we're not paying that time there is. Thank you.
Okay, all right, now it's time for some reader questions. The first one came from Sean Sargent. What steps would you take as mayor to actively protect Manchester City residents, particularly our Latino community members, who have been targeted nationwide for voter reach from federal agencies like ICE, especially in cases involving legal attainments, warrantless entries, or other unconstitutional actions that go against local values, public safety priorities, and due process protection? Free mayor.
Sure, yeah. So we're not a sanctuary city here in the city of Manchester. We don't have legal authority to tell the federal government what to do or what not to do as it pertains to enforcing immigration laws. That said, we do have a relationship with Immigration Customs Enforcement. Our police department does work with them regularly just on many matters of business, and it's inherently important for us to have that communication with them to avoid some of the pitfalls that they've been seeing elsewhere. As I've said, since I launched my campaign for mayor 3 years ago, my great-great-grandmother Pepe immigrated to this city from Montreal to work in the mills. Fast forward 150 years, and we have the same story that's being told here with immigrants and Americans coming in to rejuvenate and refresh the city. My wife is a perfect example of that. She immigrated here from Peru 20 years ago. We are an opening city. We should and have to maintain that.
Thank you so much. Lady Woman, what are your thoughts on these topics?
I think Manchester Police Department has enough to do. They need to focus on the safety of our citizens, our residents, first and foremost. You have 25 vacancies, and as the mayor said, people are already working time and a half. So for right now, I think that's where my priority for our police force would be to focus on the city of Manchester.
Awesome. Next one comes up from Daryl Johnston, excuse me. Given the recent issue with Hillside Middle School, what is your vision for ensuring that all school facilities in Manchester are safe, sanitary, and well-maintained, not just when problems arise? And would you propose eventually to maintenance fund oversight office, including talking about top river situation? Maybe what are your thoughts?
Well, it's definitely unfortunate that this happened. I think that there was this issue. It has been remedied at this point. But I will say that I think one thing we should look at as a school district is bringing our maintenance in-house. We have been paying out to contractors to that service, and I don't personally don't know we're getting what we're paying for that, and we need to look at bringing it in-house and having somebody, whether it's dedicated to that one school or maybe 2 or 3, but somebody who knows the facility, who's keeping an eye on these things daily.
Yes, I mean, this is a really delicate situation. Anytime you have kids in school and you have some big old cockroaches in there, you have to be very careful with how you work. 2 week in school with children in there, but the superintendent gave an update on this last night. When the problem became apparent there, they immediately elevated it to facilities so that they could go in there and begin the process of spraying for the bugs that were in there and making sure the problem was dealt with and addressed with, while also keeping in mind the safety of the students that are there.
Thank you so much. Next question up. English here. This one comes from Daniel Ruais. Will there ever be a senior discount on property taxes? Paying our homes for years, finally tired to continue paying huge amounts to the city for taxes. Why should we have to give up our homes just to pay for services others use, such as schools?
What was her name?
Daniel Ruais.
I think it's a great news for her because there is.
I think it's Daniel, not Daniel.
Okay.
I don't know.
If you want to
I've never met this person.
I mean, if you want to send in contact information, we have worked with seniors in the past on addressing the assessed value of the property or addressing property taxes and exemptions that do exist on the books. But this is, I think, another important thing that we can talk about just with respect to the budget. So that, as I said in my opening statement, the two budgets that we were came further under the tax cap than any other budget that had previously been passed. Now, bear in mind, 80% of the city's budget is police, fire, and DPW. So if you're going to look at restricting any kind of funding, the biggest targets that are in there are police, fire, and DPW. Who doesn't want more police officers, firefighters, or people to pick up your trash? So I think when you're doing a budget, you have to be responsible as you're looking at areas to cut, because the vast majority of it is going to impact your first responders. But even with that, we were still able to come further under the tax cap without having to cut any essential services.
Today, woman, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so there are already, as Mayor Ruais said, some sort of incentives for folks who are senior citizens. But one area that I would like to look into is Atlanta has put forward, and I'd like to kind of replicate this idea here in Manchester, has put forward a housing trust fund for low income and seniors. I think in Manchester it'd be particularly helpful for the senior population who own their homes. But what it does is that it ensures if property taxes go higher, the difference between what it's at and what your property tax was last year, or whatever it may be, whenever it goes into place, the city with the trust fund covers that difference. So that's something that I would like to invest in and look into further, so that we can ensure our seniors are able to age in place, and stay in their homes if that's so what they desire, and not feel afraid of being priced out of their community.
And we'll ask Mr. or Mrs. Way, they want to share their contact information. Okay. All right, next one. We already talked about this, but this is a question from our reader. Sharon Harlan asks, while politics should be lively and open to debate and discourse, but the meetings are now often yelling matches where the loudest alderman espouse personal beliefs and rehash grudges. As mayor, how would you promote an atmosphere of respect for both free speech and decorum? Committee woman, what are your thoughts?
Well, there's an election November 4th, so everybody can go vote. And I'm encourage you all to go make sure you have votes in there and treat the chamber with respect. Because we should be showing that place some dignity. This is, like I said before, this is a place where serious business happens, and we should not be entertaining the circus time that it has become. That gamble has been quite too much. I am happy to get in there and to have folks, and to tell folks that we need to calm down, we need to take a minute and read it, but we need to get back to business, because it's just what we're here to do. It's a business of the city.
Mayor Kent.
Yeah, I think Manchester has always been known for its lively politics. I don't think anything is new over the last 2 years that we haven't seen in the past. And I do agree that we need to make sure that we're having a quorum, which is one of the reasons why we introduced the view to our rules on the Board of Aldermen, that Board of Mayor Aldermen. I think if you look at what we have accomplished over the last 2 years, we're abilities for this situation. I think the vast majority of what we have done has been overwhelmingly bipartisan. We've done, whether it's on housing, whether the compensation study, fixing the healthcare mess that we came in with. We had a $2 million overrun on healthcare costs that we had to fix. The compensation, that was a big piece of that. The zoning rewrite is another big thing that we are taking up, getting 11 contracts signed and passed unanimously. I think we've done an awful lot of really good work on the board. So I've asked that we take a look at the work that has been accomplished. As part of the whole of what this board has done.
So much. And you guys are going much faster than I expected you to do, so you might run out of time, but if you want to go to the,
May I just say something
Sure.
about this? I think it's telling that the Board of School Committee did not have to introduce rules around it more. We have been able to get things done, to have our disagreements. It's not like we all agree about everything. Shannon and Bob are both here, and I know that we have all had some spirited discussions. But we're able to come together, come back to the center, and do the work so that the school district can continue the progress that they've made. And that's something that's lacking on the Board of Parent Ultimate. That's why they've had to introduce these rules of decorum. It's frustrating to me as a citizen who lives here to see this happening, to know that this is on public display. Anybody could go look at this and watch this. And what are they thinking? What are we doing?
Mayor, just one there.
We already do have rules of call on the board. We were simply updating it to add some additional rules on there. But again, if the question is what is the work that's been done, is this hindering our ability to get work done? As I stated in my previous answer, if it was on ending up, this has not inhibited our ability to get work done. We've accomplished an awful lot over the last 2 years, as I talked about in my other PC. So I think we have gotten an awful lot of work done. We are in the process of updating rules to quality, but I think if you look at how I have composed myself, the vast majority of people on that board compose itself, and the ability to get work accomplished, I think that much is very.
Thank you so much, and as I was saying, you guys are going much past to the next session. So if we do finish early, I guess we can go to that burger a little bit sooner than we thought. So take your time on these next few questions.
Our next one comes from Scott Hartford.
This looks like it's a two-part question, actually. Do you believe there should be any campaign limits on what can be spent in local elections? Should there be a cap on donations given from outside the city? Should any unspent funds be truly private for charity? And second part, and this is the third part, how would you curb abusive and inappropriate behavior by Joe Kelly Vanessa?
Who would like to take this one first?
You're going to ask the third question?
Yeah, this is like 17 questions, we have one question.
So I've answered this question on how I expect would be expected is for board members to have to issue my report themselves. I think I've been very clear on that point. As it pertains to funding on the board, so we had a conversation last year or earlier this year that Rick had introduced about elongating terms on the board. I think that the whole we should take a look at two of our processes. So we had an election this year, a primary election this year, cost $125,000 for a primary for like 4 people on the ballot. I think we need to take a look at how we do our elections in the city. Certainly we can have that conversation about dollars as well as it pertains to how we are getting contributions. You can also look at doing things like they do down for the federal offices and have limits, but have more frequent disclosures as well. So right now, we're only required to do a disclosure 10 days before the election and 10 days after the election. No reason we couldn't do quarterly disclosures like they do in Washington. But I'd be all in favor of having a conversation about how we look at our elections writ large.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so I guess to touch on Mayor Ruais, that in terms of Joe Kelly Bowser, just don't vote. Don't vote for. When it comes to campaign finances, this is something that I really thought about right before running for the term because it can be an expensive endeavor and a prohibitive one. So I do think that it's worth looking at how much are we spending on these elections? Is that reasonable? Where is it coming from? I would certainly be open to exploring this, going on a city level and seeing, what can we do within terms of state law to enable everyone in the room to feel what they want. Because it's democracy, right? Like, that's supposed to be of the people and by the people, not just the people who have law.
Okay. Good news is there's no more questions of quorum from the readers here. We do have another one from Alima. Recent data shows that only about 26 to 28% of Manchester's elementary school students are grade level, meaning that nearly 3 out of 4 children are students struggle with literacy. Since strong reading skills by third grade are directly linked to graduation and future success, what specific steps will you take as mayor to make further literacy quite clearly close this gap? Jess, you want to second last time, so let's go through it.
Sure. Definitely something that I've been concerned about. Having a daughter who just entered kindergarten, reading is the key therapy, sure. Really being able to read is a massive endeavor, and you forget once you learn how to read, how hard it is to learn to read. And so we need to ensure that we have the staff and the specialists available. Unfortunately, because of our cuts, some of those folks who were actually in those reading specialist positions were moved to become a classroom teacher, or they were not filled at all if they retired or moved to another district for some reason. Aside from ensuring that we have funding, I would really work closely with the district to ensure that we're looking at the curriculum on the regular schedule so that it's being updated properly. We are back on that sort of regular schedule, so it's more just kind of continuing that discussion and ensuring it happens. But I've also worked at places like the library. The library here is a wonderful resource, and we can use this as a piece for potential tutoring and after-school sort of services. I love coming to the library. I came early so I could check out some Bob books for my bedroom. But using and investing in our city is just one small way that we could do this. But I think if we all work together, we can find a way to bring literacy up and to encourage reading to library.
Yeah, so let me address this in 2 ways. One, so since I became mayor, the Manchester School District has received $11 million more than prior to me becoming. In the last 3 years, Manchester School District has gotten $46 million than previously had. There have not been any cuts to education funding in the city of Manchester. The balance that we have tried to strike is we have reduced requests because there are other things, as I said, the job of mayors, we had a massive healthcare problem that we had to deal with last year. We had the compensation study we had to deal with last year. And at the end of the day, the main priority that we have is also protecting the taxpayer. So what we did was we reduced the request, we didn't cut any funding, and it was a way to balance out all of the spending of the city because we can only grab that from you. So we have to be respectful as we're doing that. And so one of the things that I think about is my daughter is 9 months old, and she was born premature. So we have Orphanet here in the city, which does incredible work. But the whole idea is to identify and help correct any deficiencies that she might have because she was born premature. Same kind of theory applies in our schools. We have to identify the kids that are falling behind, that are struggling, and making sure that we are putting them with the resources that they need to be successful in the long term. Because the longer we take to correct an issue, the worse it's going to be long term. You see this come. So making sure that those kids have necessary resources, particularly the ones that may be falling behind. We had a great presentation last week on IEPs and those children with special needs. And there's a massive expense tag that we are working diligently to address it and making sure that getting those kids the necessary resources. All right, I take enough time here?
I think you're good. We have time for one more question before closing arguments. This one comes from Steve Castlering, the most famous person I know. What is the biggest challenge the city will face over the next 2 weeks? Jed, what are your thoughts on that? Challenge.
So I think housing is one of those issues that touches just about every facet of our city. When I talk to Catholic Medical Center or Southern New Hampshire University or Dean Kane in or even our department heads as they're looking to recruit people, invariably one of the first things that pops up is, I don't have enough housing to attract workers, it's too expensive, I can't bring enough people into the city, it stops businesses from coming in. This is one of those long-term death knells for a city is if housing becomes unaffordable. So one of the biggest things that we're going to have over the next 2 years is how do we set ourselves up for success on housing? Because that also, not only does it touch on workforce development, it touches on businesses being able to come into the community, it touches on revenue, it touches on budgets, it touches on our infrastructure, our school district. It impacts literally every single thing that we do. So I think housing is one of those essential things that we have to focus on the next term. YAC is going to be a big piece of that. Pearl Street Lot's going to be a big piece of that. Harvard Lot's going to be a piece of that as well. Housing affordability is one of those crucial issues for Manchester in the next 2 years.
Just wake up.
I think there's quite a few issues that we're going to be faced with over the next couple of years, and I would just kind of sum them up as quality of life issues. Things like housing, also things like education, things like road repair, things like our parks and our public services. We need to balance out the economic boom we have seen in the city with those quality of life issues so that it can continue. Because there are the companies down the middle here who are requesting these sorts of things. They want them so that they can afford and retain employees. So we as a city have a responsibility to ourselves really to see that through to ensure prosperity for everybody if we care.
Thank you so much. We have about 2 minutes left for each of you, unless you'd like your comments to be cut off by MCTD. Thank you so much, Mayor and Midwoman. Midwoman, you went last for a second. Would you like to go first this time? No? Okay, defer.
She's going to defer.
You're going to kick off in a second.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Andy, for being the hostess and hostess again. And thank you, Jess, as well, again, for your redemption to the city for being here tonight. I've never been more convinced that Manchester's best days lie ahead. I launched a campaign in 2023 talking about the promise and potential of the city to now being mayor and seeing the progress that we've made over the last 2 years. I could not be more convinced that we have everything that it takes to be the best mid-sized city in the United States. I think we've made good progress on housing, bring more housing into the city. I think we've made good progress on the quality of life issues that we've talked about, crime going down, overdose care, responsibly and comprehensively addressing homelessness. I think over the last hour, we talked about a number of the solutions going forward. And as I stated in my opening, I think we have to continue to make progress on reducing the red tape and bureaucracy on housing. So getting that zoning relay done, or steps that we can take to streamline that process. On crime, we have to make sure that we get 2 police contracts done next year to recruit and retain our officers to further reduce crime in the city. Of course, during the budget process, we have to make sure we're respecting the taxpayers. Looking at balancing all the needs that we have in the city, you as the end user in mind. So I'm really excited about the potential that we have going forward. And of course, on homelessness, we are a hair away from ending veterans' homelessness in Manchester. And we have learned an incredible amount of lessons in doing that we can scale up writ large, touch the other centers that we have here, and how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. And that's what we can do on homelessness, continue making the progress that we have over the last 2 years. So I'm really excited, fired up about the progress that we made and the potential that we have going forward. And I would ask for your support 1 week from today, month before. So thank you all. I'm in for Katie.
Thanks all.
We have had a great economic zone here on this today. And in order to continue that progress, we need to look at our quality of life. We need to ensure that our public servants are paid adequately. We need to ensure that our roads are repaired and that they're safe, not just for the people driving on them, but for the people walking or who are also riding their bikes. We need to make sure that folks have affordable housing, and not just affordable in the sense of Section 8, but that rents are at a certain level where an average income can meet that without stretching their budget too sad. We need to make sure that the homeless have the resources that they need in order to get themselves out of that situation so that they can also become productive members of our city. I have worked in this city and I have walked alongside people who are struggling in this city. But more than anything, I'm going to keep the people of the city at the center of any decision that I make because I am one of the people living in this city. I am one of the people who believe that this is a wonderful community, who have lived here, and who want to continue to live here. I want my girls to be proud of being from Manchester. And I want them to stay. But I hope that you'll consider voting for me on November 4th. And, it's been a pleasure speaking with all of you tonight. And thank you, Andy and Carol, for hosting us in the two. I'm never like big care as well now.
You're welcome.
Your thoughtful answers. I want to thank those of you who came out tonight for your thoughtful questions. Keep them coming. And of course, who would I be if I didn't make one last plug for the Inkling? I thank all of you who are subscribers to our daily newsletter, but if you're not getting it every day, please sign up and get the daily morning newsletter. If you're not a VIP supporter, you are the wind beneath our wings. You keep us going. What that means is you get a free t-shirt, you get plugged into all the stuff that's happening. We have cool get-togethers out into the world, and if you join at the highest level, you can donate advertising to the nonprofit of your choice. We're really just trying to keep the community connected. If you have a business and you're looking to advertise, give me a call, because without those advertising dollars, we become yesterday's news, and you will not have it Inkling anymore. So,
And my babies will go hungry.
yeah. You gotta feed the babies. Gotta feed the babies. So if you want to feed the babies, please give me a call. And in all seriousness, this is the best job I've ever had. I'm so excited to continue to have this opportunity to reflect on our community, to bring us together for important moments, to hold officials accountable, but in such a way that we're all in this together. We're not trying to, we're not trying to shake anybody down here. We're just trying to make our community the best it can be. So let's just keep it going. And good luck to both of you on Tuesday. Best wishes. We'll be there watching. Thank you to everybody. See you over at Bad Burger, 4-minute watch.